He saw a small bear cub slowly sinking into the icy water just a few meters from the boat, and for the first time in his life, he was afraid not for himself. The look in the mother bear's eyes was full of desperation and pleading. On a warm, sunny afternoon, the soft murmur of birds and the clear buzzing of insects filled the air over Lake Harrison. The water shimmered like silver, a gentle ripple ran along the river's surface, reflecting the turquoise sky. A boat drifted slowly across the lake. At the helm sat Jack Rivers, a local resident, a lifelong fisherman who had grown up in these parts. From an early age, Jack knew the local lakes and forests like the back of his hand. His grandfather had been a legendary gamekeeper who had saved many animals during a great storm. His father was a stern but fair man who taught Jack to respect nature and to never pass by someone's trouble, whether human or beast. After losing his parents young, Jack matured early. Left alone in his grandfather's house, he often fished and helped his neighbors whenever strength or cleverness was needed. Gradually, all the residents of the tiny village Creed Creek came to love him for his kindness and honesty. That May Day promised to be as peaceful as usual. Plenty of fish, joy from the sun, the familiar babble of water. But fate had a trial in store. Jack was already heading back to shore when an alarming sound broke the usual calm of the wilderness. Turning his head, he noticed unusual movement on the far side of the lake. A large mother bear was trying to cross the water with two cubs, but suddenly, one of the little ones started falling behind, struggling in the water and desperately clutching a floating log with its paws. Another mother bear with her second cub was already nearly on shore, but this pair, mother and cub, were clearly in trouble. Jack had often heard how hard it is for bear cubs to learn to swim and knew how thin the line was between curiosity and a true threat to life. He reacted quickly. He turned the boat and carefully headed toward the cub, watching closely the mother bear who stood frozen on the shore, seemingly holding her breath. One more moment, and the cub could have been swept away by the current or exhausted beyond strength. Jack understood that the slightest mistake might make the mother see him as a threat. He slowed down, guiding the boat to the log so as not to frighten the cub. The little bear, sensing support, was not scared. On the contrary, it trustingly met the man's gaze and gripped the log even tighter. "Hold on, buddy," Jack whispered quietly, as he was used to speaking to his little nephews. He nudged the log with the boat's bow, slowly steering it toward the nearest shore, where the huge mother bear paced anxiously. As he approached, he noticed the animal shudder but not rush forward. It caught the tone in Jack's actions and seemed to trust that he wanted to save her cub. Minutes felt like an eternity, but finally the log, with the frightened, soaked little bear on it, touched the shore. The cub immediately ran to its mother and both, blending with the shadow of the fir trees, stepped back a little into the forest, still watching Jack. He stayed for several moments. A silent understanding settled between him and the animals. The mother bear looked intently at the man, not with hostility, but rather with gratitude and respect. Keeping her eyes on Jack, she bent down to the cub, licked it, and then growled softly as if saying, "Thank you, you saved my child." Unexpectedly, from the bushes, the second cub appeared, glanced a couple of times at Jack, and together with the family, disappeared into the thickets. The sun played with all its colors on the water's surface. In that silence, it seemed a hymn to the harmony between man and wild nature sounded. Since then, Jack often recalled this incident, telling it in the local bar or by the campfire in the evenings. He said, "The most important thing is, the cub understood my intention. The little one was not afraid and did not resist, as if it felt help was coming." Several years passed since the day Jack saved the bear cub on Lake Harrison. He became almost a local legend, yet life in the wild is always full of surprises, and one day, fate tested his strength. On that clear autumn day, Jack went into the forest to check his traps and gather nuts. The lake was already rippling with the first cold winds, and leaves on the trees shone with bright golden and fiery hues. Jack walked along a narrow path, winding through tall pines and oaks, when suddenly the ground beneath his feet cracked, and he fell into a deep pit, an old lumberjack trap camouflaged by foliage. The man tried to climb out, but the walls were too steep and slippery. For several hours, Jack sat in the cold pit, unsure what else to try, calling for help, but the forest was empty and seemed inhospitable. Fatigue and a leg injury began to take their toll. He realized he wouldn't get out without help, and fear slowly crept in beneath his resolve. When hope was almost gone, a quiet crack and rustle sounded among the trees. From the bushes at the edge of the pit appeared that same mother bear, now no longer a wild stranger, but seemingly an old friend. She looked carefully at Jack, sniffed the air. Then she found the trunk of an old dry tree and lowered it down. Jack, unable to believe his eyes, froze in confusion so as not to scare the animal. When one end of the tree trunk touched the bottom of the pit, the bear gave a low sound, as if telling the man, "Come on, get out, I'm with you." Jack, in pain and fear, understood for the first time that a wild creature could feel not just self-defense but true compassion. Minutes later, a solid surface appeared before him. With the help of her furry paws and soft growls, the bear seemed to push him out. It felt as if an invisible bond formed between them, not words, but a sense of mutual trust and gratitude. Climbing out of the trap, Jack fell onto the grass, breathing heavily and feeling his body gradually surrender to exhaustion. The bear sat beside him, not touching, as if guarding him. Soon muffled footsteps came, local hunters and friends who had heard Jack's calls and came to help. "Jack!" came a voice from the edge of the forest. "Are you here? We were heading your way and heard someone shouting." Jack barely lifted his head and exhaled with relief. "Yes, I'm here," he replied. 3 men from the village emerged from the bushes. Tom, a sturdy veteran hunter, and the brothers Mike and Ben, experienced woodsmen. "We were on our way to your cabin, but suddenly we heard your voice." "What happened?" Tom asked, inspecting the pit. "Fell into an old trap," Jack replied with a weak smile. "Almost lost hope, but help came from where I least expected it." He gestured towards the she-bear sitting nearby, watching attentively. Mike frowned, but nodded respectfully. "I never thought wild animals could show such care." "That's not just an animal, that's a guardian of the forest," Ben said quietly. "Jack, you're lucky to witness such a miracle in this wilderness." "We'll make sure you get checked and your injuries treated," Tom added. Jack glanced at the bear once more. Her gentle gaze spoke more than words. "Thank you, guys, and to this bear as well," he said with sincere gratitude. All 3 fell silent, realizing how rare and touching this moment was, an encounter between a human and the wild. After this event, Jack was forever convinced nature is generous with friends if you know how to listen and see. And the mother bear remained for him a living symbol of kindness that does not ask for words or barriers, only heart and willingness to help. The story that began on the shore of Lake Harrison turned into a legend about how man and beast save each other. Impossible becomes possible where mutual help and trust of the heart reign. Did you enjoy this story? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to not miss new releases. See you soon.